I shelled out $3,200 for my family's cruise. They voted me off the trip during dinner, calling me immature. What I did next left them utterly speechless. "You're not coming, Eli. It's for adults with real jobs." She stayed silent, then pulled the plug on their dream vacation. The quiet that followed was pure music. My name is Eli. I'm 29. And if there's one thing I've learned from my family, it's that they never miss an opportunity to remind you of your supposed place in the pecking order. I'm the youngest by a few years and the only one without a spouse, mortgage, or, as they put it, a respectable LinkedIn profile. I work freelance, mostly in graphic design with some copywriting gigs. It covers my rent, keeps my fridge stocked, and even lets me save a bit. But none of that seemed to matter to them. Not when my sister Tessa has a high-rise condo with city views and my brother Brandon closes six-figure sales deals while also training for marathons. Compared to them, I'm like the family dog, tolerated, occasionally acknowledged, but never taken seriously. Sunday dinners had become more of a chore than something I looked forward to. Dad insisted on keeping the family together after Mom passed, which apparently meant sitting in awkward silence while Tessa bragged about her latest interior design project. Or Brandon ranted about corporate tax rates as if he were running for office. I'd show up with a bottle of wine no one touched, endure a few digs, then leave with a forced smile and an even heavier heart. But this past evening was different. We were in the middle of a meal where no one spoke to me, yet my entire life was still being dissected. Tessa had just finished showing everyone a slideshow on her phone of potential vacation outfits. Yes, actual clothes, sorted by theme. Dad cleared his throat and announced, "We all voted, and we've decided you're not coming on the cruise." I blinked. "What?" Tessa chimed in, sipping her wine as if she'd just finished a grand performance. "It's adults only, you know, for people with real jobs." I let out a small, surprised chuckle, more from shock than amusement. Because being 29 and paying your own bills apparently doesn't count? Even Grandma Sweet, who was crocheting and always had peppermints in her purse, chimed in from across the table, shaking her head. "Maybe next year, dear, if you finally do something with your life." I stared at her in disbelief. This was the same woman who used to sneak me cookies before dinner and knitted me a beanie because she thought my ears were cold. Now she was echoing Tessa's insults as if they were gospel. "I see," I mumbled, trying to smile as I pushed back from the table. "Excuse me for a moment." I stood up and stepped out into the front yard, phone in hand. It was cool outside, with the kind of crisp air that truly wakes you up. I paced on the porch, letting the sting of their words settle deep in that part of your chest you try to ignore. I didn't cry, I was past that, but I felt a quiet, profound ache. Not only did I feel excluded, but I also realized this wasn't new. It had been this way for years. I was an afterthought, the family disappointment. They all assumed I'd eventually come crawling for help, money, or validation. Except for the cruise, I was financially involved. None of them knew, and no one had ever bothered to ask.
Tessa had called me in a panic, Eli, listen!
I'm booking this amazing cruise for the whole family as a surprise for Dad's birthday. It's with this luxury line, and I want a lock in the group rate. But my bonus hasn't hit yet, and I need someone to float it temporarily, just a deposit. I swear I'll pay you back in 2 weeks. She sounded frantic, but sincere. And against my better judgment, I agreed. I still had my receipt. I still had the confirmation email. I still had the credit card charge on my account. Because, of course, Tessa never reimbursed me. Not a single penny. Every time I brought it up, she'd just chuckle and say, "Oh, I thought you were cool with it. You did offer, right?" Technically, I did offer, but she couldn't pretend it. Didn't happen. Not for them to turn around and tell me I wasn't welcome on the very trip I had arranged. I stood under the porch light, staring at my screen, scrolling through old messages. Rereading her cheerful tone, my fingers hovering over the cancel button. That's all it would take. The reservation was still in my name. The card was still mine. I didn't press it. Not yet. Instead, I went back inside, sat at the table, and remained silent while they continued to plan their adults-only vacation. They discussed excursions in Belize, snorkeling in Cozumel, arranging spa and drink packages, and cabin upgrades.
Guess.
They even giggled about how relaxing it would be without any dead weight trailing along. Don't take it personally, Brandon explained as he speared another chunk of steak. You'll get your chance to come eventually, Tessa replied with a smirk. When you level up, I smiled, nodded, and said nothing. But inside, a simmering fire was beginning to ignite. By the time dessert arrived, they hadn't touched the store-bought pie I'd brought, so I excused myself again, this time for real. I hugged Grandma. She patted my arm as if comforting a child. Don't feel bad, honey. Maybe this will be the push you need. I didn't say what I wanted to. I didn't yell about hypocrisy, demand reimbursement, or throw the pie in someone's smug face. Instead, I got in my car, drove home, sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, went to the cruise website, and reviewed the reservation again. Everything was still modifiable. The entire vacation was booked under my name. The guests were listed. As additional travelers, my card had paid for both the deposit and the upgrades. All I had to do was click once, but I hadn't clicked it yet. I waited. I waited until Tessa shared a photo of matching vacation outfits for the entire family on Instagram with the caption, 1 week to paradise. #family goals. #cruise. CRUEW. I waited until Brandon texted me unexpectedly, asking if I could help him with some last-minute travel insurance forms since I had more time. And then I waited for the Family Cruise 2025 group chat to fill up with messages about luggage tags, airport transportation, and dinner reservations on the ship. That's when I clicked the cancel reservation button. Just like that, it only took one click to unravel everything. My phone started vibrating. Brandon first? Dude, the cruise confirmation disappeared. Tessa next. Why is the card declined? What have you done? Then Dad. Call me now. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I opened the group chat, typed 2 words, bon voyage, and hit send. The silence that followed was almost musical. No buzz, no pings, nothing. I sat staring at the screen, watching the 2 words bon voyage hang over a sea of stunned quiet in the family group chat. I half expected a volley of insults, explanations, or even an apology. But they were still trying to piece it together, trying to figure out how the person they'd dismissed could pull the rug out from under their perfect little cruise fantasy. It wasn't long until my phone exploded. Tessa was the first caller. I let it ring. Then Dad, twice in a row. I declined. Both. Then Brandon left a message that started calmly, but gradually devolved into frustration. Eli, what's going on? This isn't funny, dude. Call me back. I didn't. Instead, I leaned back in my chair, stared at the wall, and felt the weight of it wash over me. The truth is, I didn't feel great. Not really. I didn't feel like I had won or proven anything. Felt drained. I was tired of pretending I was fine with being treated as the family's punchline. I'm tired of showing up, giving them the benefit of the doubt, and then watching them turn it into another joke about how I was a disappointment. But mostly, I felt liberated. It felt like I had finally cut ties with something that had been draining me for years. That night, I ordered Thai food, put my phone on silent, and watched an old sci-fi show I barely paid attention to. I went to bed with a full stomach and a strangely calm, hollow heart. Sleep didn't come easily, but it did eventually. There were more than 60 messages in the group chat. Grandma, what happened with the cruise? Dad, that's ludicrous. Eli, you need to fix this. Tessa, you child. You're an absolute child. Brandon, you've ruined everything. And then this one from Tessa. I can't believe you would destroy Dad's birthday like this. You are selfish. Always been. If you were jealous, you could have just said so. It's jealous. That was rich. I nearly laughed. They assumed this was about envy, that I wrecked a luxurious vacation because I wanted to be them. No, I didn't want their life. I wanted respect, not that. I at least wanted to be free of their toxicity. Still, I knew it wasn't over. My doorbell rang. I checked the peephole. Dad. He was dressed in his usual Sunday casuals khakis, polo tucked in, sleeves rolled up as if he was about to fix something. I considered not answering, but I didn't want to turn this into a game of hide-and-seek. I opened the door and leaned against the frame. Eli, he said, frowning. Can we talk? I shrugged. We're already doing it. He scratched the back of his neck, looking around as if he expected a camera crew to emerge. Look, whatever you're upset about, can't we do this here? I stared at him. Where would you prefer to do it? On the cruise I wasn't invited to? He exhaled sharply. You know, that wasn't personal. It was so intimate. It was a group decision, correct? I replied, crossing my arms. Just like it was a group decision not to repay me for fronting. The entire cruise in the first place. He blinked. Wait, what? I tilted my head. You didn't know? I thought Tessa had paid for it. I smiled. She didn't. He stood there, stunned, his expression gradually shifting from uncertainty to discomfort. Then to the tight-lipped rage he always felt when reality didn't fit the version he'd created in his imagination. You paid for the cruise and then canceled it? I nodded. That's right. He was quiet for a minute before saying, You embarrassed us. That silenced me. I laughed quietly, bitterly, and honestly. Are you embarrassed? You sat at dinner and told me the family had voted me out as if I were being banished. Grandma claimed I had done nothing with my life. My own sister called me a child, and I'm the one who embarrassed you? He looked down, his jaw clenched. I didn't cancel the cruise to make a statement, I explained. I canceled because I realized something. If you're going to treat me like I don't belong in this family, perhaps I shouldn't be paying for the right to be excluded. He didn't respond, just gazed out toward the street, as if that would provide him with answers. After a long pause, he eventually said, You could have handled this differently. So could you. He nodded slowly, before turning and walking down the steps. I didn't invite him back. I didn't apologize. I didn't ask if he still intended to go somewhere for his birthday. I simply closed the door, went back inside, and sat down. The group discussion went silent. No new messages, threats, or guilt. Trips. Only silence until a new message appeared from Tessa. No apologies, no explanation. Just a screenshot of the rebooking confirmation, but this time there was no mention of me, no bon voyage. Just a defiant, we're going anyway. I stared at the screenshot for a full minute before it registered. They had rebooked the cruise, not rescheduled, not regrouped, just moved on. The same trip, same week, same smug attitude. There was only one thing missing. Me. Nobody asked. If I was okay? Nobody addressed the money. Nobody apologized. Tessa's message hung there as a challenge. We're going regardless. I didn't respond. I didn't want to give her any satisfaction, but deep down, I knew what this was. Damage. Control. They were scrambling to protect their image and keep up appearances. They probably spent twice as much for last-minute bookings and substandard cabins, but they didn't care. The priority wasn't comfort. It was control and making sure I was out of the picture. Brendan texted me privately shortly after. I disagree with how they handled it, but you really blindsided everyone, man. I rolled my eyes. Did I? Or did I simply stop being quiet? He didn't respond. The cruise was slated to depart soon. My sister's Instagram feed featured daily countdowns to swimwear, sunscreen hauls, and spa appointment screenshots. The hashtag Cruise Crew 225 was back in full swing. Only now it seemed thinner, more strained. I'd muted most of them by now, but occasionally something would slip through. A tag, a story, a photo from Grandma, with too much zoom and the caption spelled out in all caps, "See you at sea." I had to laugh. Not because it was funny, but because the entire situation had become absurd. Here was this group of people clinging to the idea of unity they were so keen to maintain, while I sat in a one-bedroom apartment with a stack of freelance edits, a leftover burrito, and the unmistakable sense that I was better off not going. Even so, it hurts to be overlooked and unwelcome. The thing they never understood or even tried to understand was that I didn't need luxury. I didn't need first-class five-star dinners or sunset views from a balcony suite. I simply wanted to feel like I belonged, to feel like I was as important as the people I grew up with, and every time I gave them the opportunity to prove it, they doubled down on their denial. I was done trying to fix it. I received one more communication from Dad. Your sister says you still have a refund credit from the original booking. Can you transfer it to her card? No greeting, no question, just a demand. As if I were in office. Clerk sorting receipts. I stared at the message. Then I opened my banking app to check. Sure enough, there was a $740 trip credit. I thought about it, considered all the groceries I could buy with that. I considered using it to pay rent or to buy a plane ticket to somewhere I wanted to go. And then I wondered what they'd think. If I returned it, that I was folding, that I was still playing the role they had scripted for me. So I redeemed the credit for myself. I reserved a 3-night cabin in the Highlands. Nothing fancy. A small Airbnb with a wood stove, a tree-lined view, and a nearby hiking trail. No cell service, no signal, just enough room to think, breathe, and be myself. Free of the noise of others trying to diminish me. As I packed, I watched the images from their voyage arrive. Tessa on the pier wearing a sun hat that still had the price tag on it. Brandon holding up a margarita larger than his head. Grandma standing under a Bon Voyage flag, beaming, and Dad looking exhausted. Not physically, but something in his gaze suggested that the cracks were starting to show. I smiled as I zipped up my duffel bag and turned off my phone. They had no idea where I was headed. For the first time in a long time, neither did I. I left the city just as the sun was rising. The cruise liner was most likely embarking. No goodbyes, no phone calls, and no texts. I turned off my phone and placed it into the glove compartment, as if it didn't exist. The drive to the cabin was long. Winding highways gave way to tiny country roads lined with pine trees and the occasional gas station that seemed unchanged since the 1980s. By the time I arrived, the sky was a deep, pure blue, and the air smelled of firewood and cold earth. The cabin was charmingly rustic, silent, and most importantly, utterly disconnected. No Wi-Fi, no signal, only a landline for emergencies, and a notebook left by the owner. Filled with handwritten notes about local trails, restaurants, and how to restart the water heater if it flickered. I started a fire in the stove, unpacked my groceries, and sat on the deck with a cup of coffee, watching the trees sway in the breeze. That first night I had the best sleep I'd had in months. It's hard to explain, but something inside me began to unwind. I wasn't just taking a break from my family. I was detoxing from years of unspoken expectations, backhanded remarks, and polite tolerance. For the first time, I wasn't performing. I wasn't changing my posture or tone or pretending I wasn't aware when someone rolled their eyes at me. I wasn't seeking inclusion. I wasn't trying at all. I was just living. I followed a trail behind the property to a ledge overlooking a frozen lake. The view was spectacular, and I sat on a boulder for over an hour, watching the sunshine reflect off the cold surface below. I didn't think about the crews. I didn't wonder what they were doing. I didn't anticipate their dinner reservations, their fake laughs, or the awkward, tension-filled breakfast that would undoubtedly ensue once the novelty wore off. I just breathed. I eventually switched the phone back on. It buzzed for over 3 full minutes. Voicemails, missed calls, texts, and most importantly, photographs. There were hundreds of images from the trip. Most of them came from Tessa, who had obviously taken it upon herself to document every hour of the journey. There she was, lounging by the pool, Brendan flexing next to a fruit plate. Dad sat on a deck chair, drink in hand, looking stiff and uncomfortable, as if he hated every moment of it. Grandma sporting a captain of the sea's visor. Then the tone shifted. The final few photographs were blurry. A photo of Brandon and Tessa arguing. Another image shows Dad sitting alone at a dining table, his glass of wine untouched. One of Grandma sleeping on a chair, lips slightly open, phone in hand as if she had fallen asleep mid-text. No captions, no hashtags, no emojis. Then, the messages followed. Tessa, thank you for ruining everything. Tessa, Eli, the vacation was a disaster. Brandon, I wish you were here. Not joking. It was strange without you. Grandma, call me when you get back, dear. And then Dad, his message arrived after I had already started packing to leave. I've been thinking about what you said. We're right. We were wrong, and I apologize. I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't need it at that moment, but it was the first time my father had said those words to me in years. The man who prided himself on being stable, logical, and never admitting mistakes had finally said it. I apologize. I drove home. The return felt different. The city didn't seem so oppressive. My apartment didn't feel so small. My existence, as flawed and unpredictable as it was, felt personal. And for the first time, that was enough. No Sunday dinner invitations, no new group chats, just silence. Until one day, I received a letter in the mail from Grandma. It was handwritten on floral stationery with a faint lavender scent. Inside was a brief note. Dear Eli, we missed you. Truly, that day I let my mouth get away from me. I was wrong to say what I said. I apologize, and I hope you can forgive me. P.S. The cruise was terrible. The shrimp gave me hives, and Tessa cried 3 times. Never again, love, Grandma. I laughed. I laughed so hard I almost cried, then I wrote her back, just a short letter. I told her I had forgiven her. Told her about the cabin. I included a Polaroid of the frozen lake and urged her to come visit whenever she wanted some peace and quiet. Brandon texted me a few days later asking if I wanted to meet for lunch. A group thing. Just the 2 of us. I said yes. The lunch was relaxed. 2 brothers catching up. We spoke about work. I mentioned a new freelancing gig I'd taken on. Then, as we were wrapping up, he said, "You know, I think Tessa's more upset that she couldn't control the narrative than about the cruise itself." I nodded. "That sounds about right. She come around," he continued. I smiled. She doesn't need to. And I meant it. The truth is that people like Tessa will only cooperate if it benefits them. And I wasn't going to spend the rest of my life waiting for her approval. Not anymore. Summer arrived. I booked another cabin stay, this time longer. I started putting more effort into my freelance business. I landed a couple of new clients, created a decent portfolio website. I even started teaching an online design course a couple of nights a week. It felt good to invest energy into something that gave back. Then unexpectedly, Dad called. "What about dinner tonight?" he asked. I paused. "Only you." He cleared his throat. "Just me." I agreed. We met at a small Italian restaurant near his apartment. Not a big family supper. No long table, no curated performance, just a father and son eating pasta and sharing a bottle of red. He revealed a few things I never expected to hear. He regretted making me feel like the odd one out. He had underestimated how difficult it was to build a life on your own terms, and he missed Mom more than he let on. And sometimes, in the midst of holding everything together, he forgot to notice individuals, especially me. We didn't hug. It wasn't his style. But when we said our goodbyes, he placed his hand on my shoulder and whispered, "You've grown into someone I'm proud of." That was enough. Not a grand gesture, not a perfect conclusion. However, this was just the beginning. Since then, we've created something new. It's not flashy, not too loud, but real. Every now and then, Grandma sends me a card with a fresh knitted cap or a joke that makes no sense. Brandon and I occasionally grab beers. Even Tessa hasn't changed much, but I've changed enough that her barbs no longer sting. I stopped chasing their approval. And the irony? That's when they started offering it. But by that point, I didn't need it. I'd already found something more valuable than a cruise or a place at their table.